And I'm here with two very special guests.
She was the crying type,
And she doesn't like to make hair. So when
Still
I want to make her hair in the school, I was the teacher. Then somebody will be singing for her, somebody will drumming.
When have I ever made you angry, and why?
You.
Who is your favorite child? And remember that you're on my channel. Answer, please. Who is your favorite child?
Well, it's not good to have a favorite child.
But you have.
No. You should not have.
But you
because
have. It's okay. Okay. Now we're going to move on to the next segment. This one is very, very interesting. So now we're going to talk about your love life and your marriage and all of that. But before we get there, let's start from the beginning. And in terms of what it was like growing up. And just summarize, but your childhood and your university, what did you study before you met each other? So I want to know who you are as single people before you got married. Does that make sense? Okay.
Yeah, so by growing up, thank God, I'm the firstborn of the family. And to my dad my dad was a pastor, a prophet, and as the firstborn, of course, loved by him and my family. Well, it was wonderful growing up. I remember, I think I had my primary school I stayed with my uncle in Mina, Niger State. That was then, as the ministry work transfer here and there. So he was in Kaduna, in Nigeria, and I was in Mina, in Niger State, Nigeria, West Africa. And yeah, so I finished my primary school, Lima Primary School, and of course then I came to Kaduna at my secondary school. The first year, I did first year, and eventually I went to Yaba in Abuja. Yaba, that's a federal government, federal secondary school, that's FCTSS. In Yaba in Abuja. There's a place called Yaba in Abuja, Government Secondary School. That's where I finished my first college, and of course, I wanted to go in for medicine to study medicine, but my dad told me that I was a covenant child, and that there's a covenant in my life, and that he has covenanted me to the ministry, being the firstborn, and the reason being that two other guys who were born before me died, so when my mom was pregnant with me, he made a covenant to God and said, Father, if you could allow this one to stay, then he will serve you in the ministry. And so remember, he told me that while my mom was pregnant, was about to deliver, he was actually on a motorbike when God told him, he was climbing, he was actually riding on motorbike, he heard the voice, Godwin, and he said, he turned back, and nobody was speaking, it was so audible that it was as though somebody was speaking to him. So he heard Godwin, and so then the voice came again and said, the child you are expecting will be called Godwin. I've answered your prayer, and he's going to serve me and do my will, and as a minister of God. And so he was at that time there was no scanning of anything to know whether the child was going to be a boy or girl. So he said he was now he had to park the car, the motorcycle, to continue the conversation with God. And so he said, well, are you giving me a boy? Yeah, and God said yes. So he had to send message to my mom, where my mom was in Mina then. We were not. He had to send my mom to our headquarters in Mina to stay for the delivery. So he wasn't there. So he sent the message that the child that will be born will be a boy, and you should call his name Godwin, and don't change. Godwin is not necessarily not a Yoruba name, so you will expect him to give him a Yoruba name. So they now ask, should they? If he's a boy and it's Godwin, why don't we call him Oluwasegun? Then he said, no, God said, don't change the name, don't give him Godwin. So that was how I was given that name and other names that came up. And of course, so when I finished secondary school and about to proceed to university, and so this conversation that came up that there is a covenant to my life to become the minister of God. So I said, oh, no, 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 no. I didn't want that because I had my plan. And I said, okay, let me first of all have my own money. Let me pursue this career of mine. And so I thought I was going to do that. And he didn't want to force me, actually. He said, he will allow me to just pray about it, think about it, and make my decision. So, and of course, we tried to, all I did to get admission to university, pursuing medicine. It didn't work. I went to Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria. All doors closed against that. Incidentally, there was one of the subjects I needed to get that admission, which was English. And in school, I was the brilliant child. I got all when we did the mock, I made all the papers. But for this English, it was not released. So then everything was to get to make sure that I sat for the exam so that I could get the English, but that didn't work. So I went to Ibadan. They told me that they could help me out to see if we could, put in so that the following year I could just sit down for do the paper and come up to do it. So, but everything didn't work for 1 year. So except until one of the friends of my dad who told him and said, well, you said this guy is a pastor. There's a seminary here in Ilorin. Why don't you allow him to just put in, he could start from diploma and like that. So when he told me, my dad said, okay, let's inform him, and if he's ready for that. So he told me I didn't want to listen to them, but I just, for the sacrifice of my dad, because I remember he would travel from from Kaduna to Ibadan, where I was trying to get admission at all costs. So I just remember all his labor, all his sacrifices, and everything he has done to. So I said, okay, for his sake, let me just accept to go to theology seminary. And so I said, okay. So I collected the form. In my mind, I was praying that I would be denied. And so they said that we will have an exam before, an entrance exam. So I said, okay, I will make sure I fail this exam. Okay, so, and I went for the exam. I just sat for the paper, and I didn't even read for it. So, but I saw the questions; they were just too easy for me to answer. So I just answered the thing. I still was praying that even with all I wrote, that they should see. So, but I was admitted and for diploma, and I said, okay, let me just go into it. So eventually, the first year, after the first year, somebody came to the school and told us that, okay, for those of you who want to probably go further on, you can receipt your exam, your papers that you failed or that you didn't get. And so we had to register in a school, a primary school, farther away from the school, the secondary school. And so I remember going to that school, putting on uniform of a primary school, a secondary school, in one Moro local government in Kwara State or so. So I went to put in, my intention was that as soon as I get that English, I would just leave that place. Yes, it was English. So I said I would leave that place and go and pursue my career. So eventually we sat for the papers, and so I just sat down for all the papers, and I got everything except for that English. That English was not released. So I said it was not released. So I said, okay. So and if my friends who went with me, who also did the same exam, got it. So we came back, and I was just frustrated. So I said, okay, well, let me continue with this in this theological seminary. So eventually, so we were one of the days we were in the school, and I just bumped into my friends in their rooms. They were conversing, and the conversation was it was not the conversation was just, I just met them in that conversation, and they were talking about how some people were some people running from the call of God, and that some people like Jonah, God will send them on errand. They will leave. They will depart from Tarshish to Nineveh. I mean, from Nineveh to Tarshish. So the convention was such that people who disobeyed God in answering the call of God will be punished, or that they will really pay for it. So while they were talking, my feet was glued to the ground. I couldn't leave that room. I wasn't the one they were talking to, but the message was just coming to me. And what I was hearing actually was that if you die today, you are going to hell for disobeying God. So I was just hearing hell. I said, what is this? So I left that room unannounced. I didn't tell anybody, and I just went and sat down somewhere. I was crying and praying to God, please forgive me. I'm ready to do your work now. Forgive me, oh Lord, forgive me. I'm ready to answer the call to do the work of the ministry, because it's never before that time. I was telling people that when they call me pastor, I was telling them I'm not a pastor. I'm not a pastor. In fact, some of my friends who were in the north, then I told them that I am in the University of Ibadan studying medicine. So I told God, I said, I'm sorry, all the lies I've told about that I'm in the university and studying medicine, that from today I'm ready to do your work. So while I was praying for, I don't know, I couldn't remember how many hours I stayed there praying the night. So I just had this sensation as if a cup of water was poured on me. So, and I felt God saying He has answered my prayers. So I told God, I said, God, if indeed you have answered my prayer, let the English that was seized be released. And let me make credit at least in that English. I'm ready. I won't leave this place. I will still be here to do your work. I will tell everybody I'm now a pastor. So I finished that, and about 2 weeks after, we had a program in a seminary. We call it Spiritual Emphasis. And so the principal of the school where I went to receipt for my paper came up and was asking for me. So I was playing the keyboard then, so they told me. So I went out and met him, and he said, they have released your result. And I said, wow. And he said, and congratulations that you are the only one whose English was released. And so he gave me the paper, this long script where all the other students and everything. So I saw that I was the only person whose result was released with the credit. So I said, oh God, this is how you answer prayer. So eventually that's how I got all my papers, So I said to God, Lord, I'm going to stay here, but I will make sure I further my academics to the highest level. So I said, so that was how I left. I finished my diploma in theology for 3 years. So I had to do University of Ibadan program 4 years, and do BTH. So I did BTH. So I had my first degree, Bachelor of Theology, and then the Bachelor of Arts in Religious Studies. So I had 2 first degrees. So I have a BA and a BTH. So, and this University of Ibadan, where I was struggling to go, I had to go and do my master's there. So I remember doing my master's there. I said, this is the place. I was frustrated. I wasn't given admission in the first place, so I did my master's there, got my master's, and thank God, and to the glory of God. So that's my academic journey. And of course, after I finished my first degree, I was, seconded to the Theological Seminary to lecture in the Apostolic Church Theological Seminary, and I lectured there for 10 years. We were lecturing 10 or 11 years in Elisha, our Theological Seminary at Elisha, and of course, before we were transferred to South Africa, 2014. And when we got to South Africa, I had already started my PhD in University of Ibadan. I think I did 2 years. I paid for 2 years, 2 sessions, but I couldn't finish. So I came to University of Ibadan, and to the glory of God, I met some of my professors, late Professor Adoma, who came for an academic seminar. And he told me, I said, what about your PhD? I said, well, I wish I could do it here. but I'm not sure it's going to be possible. So he connected me with my supervisor, who eventually became my supervisor, of course, Professor Masanya, and she agreed to supervise me, and so I applied for the theology, of course, theology in the University of South Africa, and of course, to the glory of God, I finished in 2019, and during the COVID, and I graduated with my Doctor of Philosophy and Theology, to the glory of God. And so I appreciate God for that journey, and of course transferred to South Africa here as the missionary field apostle, eventually promoted to become the missionary field superintendent of the Apostolic Church, Lona, South Africa here, where we stayed here about 10 years, and before eventually we were transferred back to Nigeria in 2023, as a superintendent there in the Apostolic Church in the area known as Lona, Nigeria. So thank you very much. I'm sorry I bored you, but I thought
No,
it
there's
was
a
worth
lesson
it.
there. If you
Yeah.
are running,
Yeah.
stop running. Stop being a Jonah.
Yeah.
God will find you.
So-
God will find you.
And I thank God I obeyed God, because it's been wonderful doing the work of the ministry, and it's been a blessing, touching lives here and there, to the glory of God.
May I want to ask a question? I hope you have not put me in covenants and pastor. Expose it now.
No, we did not. To the glory of God, nobody was brought under that oath,
Okay.
and so.
No, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I just want to know. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
escaped.
Thank you very much. Okay, we'll start with mommy.
Okay, my growing up child. I was the second born and the first girl. I was loved by my dad. My dad is late now. But I was loved by him because I really took after him. He really loved me. He worked in the Nigerian Airways, so we were loved. My growing up was pampered. I was loved. Growing up, it was great growing up.
How
My
many were
mom,
you?
sorry, we were 7. Yeah, we were 7, but I was the first girl and the second born of my family. We were loved. I went to primary school, Edilak Primary School in Nigeria. My secondary school, okay, my dad was trying to get me into a boarding house, but it didn't work because he loved me. He didn't want to release me to go to the boarding house. But then later, after my primary 6, I got admitted to a girls' school, and I really was doing well. I was in a science class, like that. But unfortunately, along the line, when I was 17, about to write my matric, I just got the news that my father passed on. It was just so funny, and so from then, life was a struggle. I had to go and stay with some people at some time. Blah 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 blah. But through it all, God has been faithful. He has seen me through. So I got married at the early age of 25 to my husband. We've been married for okay. You said you should tell us. So before we got married, so along the line, 17, I finished school, so I managed to get a work. I secured, I was working
What are you doing?
as a receptionist. Then later I went to secretarial school, so I became a secretary. Then later I had to go pursue my first degree. I had to pursue my first degree in business administration at Yaba College of Education. I did ND, then later I now took a form to a university. So I went to Adekunle Ajasin University in Nigeria. So I had my first degree in business administration. So along the line, I got married during that time before I could finish school. I remember when I was still in college, I was pregnant with her, so I used to carry her down to school. In the pregnancy, I used to carry her. Then later I gave birth, so I was still in school. Then they used to help me to carry her, blah, blah, blah. And throughout all that, I was able to secure that and before I got married to my husband. So that's how my childhood was.
Okay, interesting.
Can you finish your first degree?
Yeah, I finished. I had my first degree in business admin. Then later, when we came to South Africa, I did my post
PGD.
my PGD in education and foundation phase education. So thank God, at least now the children are also reading more. So I'm happy that they could climb up the ladder even more than I do.
Which, okay, we'll not get to the meeting each other. Mommy said we're 25 when you married. Was it
Yeah.
that year?
Yeah, I was 27.
Okay. So now, let's go there. How did you guys meet? Who remember? I think Mommy had the first time you saw Daddy. Did you know him before? When you saw him, what was your impression? Were you saying this man is fine? Or pastor? Or